Welcome to the Cam and Joe podcast, episode 8. How are you today, Joe?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Today we're going to be talking about cutting corners, kind of the 80-20 rule. I forget what the, scientific term for that is.
It's the, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's called Pareto. It's called the Pareto formula.
Principle.
Pareto principle, yes.
Oh, okay, nice. So do you have, I don't know, what are your thoughts or take on that? Do you agree with that principle?
So I read a book by Richard Koch. He's like this English dude. It's actually awesome in audio because he's got like this really fancy British accent, but like a nicer one. And he essentially, this guy is worth $100 million, and he essentially structured his entire life to be as successful as humanly possible by doing as little work as possible. So he goes into detail about the Pareto principle, which we can kind of cover later, what it actually is. But in a nutshell, the guy like gets into Harvard but goes to Penn State instead because he knew like Wharton would be an easier business school, and he would get like the same job as a business consultant. So gets a job as a consultant, goes to the easier college, like puts in the like minimum amount of work to be like a top performer. And then within, I think, like 5 years, starts a consultancy. He grows it to 1,000 consultants, basically making 7 figures, doing no work, mind you, because you just own the business. And everyone, like you create a business that can make other people wildly successful, people that like to put in that extra effort or whatever, or think that like working hard is the solution. Not that it isn't, but whatever. But yeah, short story long, yeah, I'm a big fan of the 80-20 principle. It's like one of my guiding life principles.
Nice. Do you have an example that you can think of, whether it's a small thing or a big thing that's worked for you?
Yeah, I was talking about this earlier in a meeting, and someone I work with was like, dude, I've been like cold calling all day. I'm sick of leaving voicemails. I'm like, why are you leaving voicemails? They were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, when's the last time you checked your voicemail? And they were like, yeah, I guess. I'm like, why don't you just like send a text message after? I'm like, think about how much time it takes you to leave a voicemail. Let's call it a minute. So let's say you do 100 calls a day, 100 minutes of voicemails times 5 days a week, 500 minutes. That's, I don't know, what is that, like 10 hours almost? 9 hours. Text message, you just freaking go, just gave you a call. This is what I'm calling about you. Maybe it's like 10 seconds. So right there, you just saved yourself like a day's work by just not leaving voicemails. Like that's not an activity that you're going to get much from.
No, I like that. I love that idea a lot. And if you were copying and pasting the same thing in the texts, then you don't even have to type it out more than once.
Especially if you're doing it on like a computer text, just reap, same thing. Yep. It doesn't have to be personalized. What about you? What's an example?
Well, back to your story, that reminds me because Sabrina would like cold call people to, people want to sell their properties, and she wouldn't leave messages. And I'm like, why don't you leave a message, especially if the person's voice message says that it's actually the person, like the name that you're looking for, and it's them. And she was like, oh, same thing. Like it's a waste of time. As soon as voicemail goes, you just hang up and immediately dial the next because it's about volume. And I was like, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. So for me, I guess, I was always the one in high school and college to look for like shortcuts to save time and put in like same thing, minimal effort to pass, because I was like, your GPA is not on your diploma. Like no one cares, unless you're really trying to get into like competitive school, or something like that,
like Ivy League or something.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So syllabus day comes around. Oh, I love it. First day of class. Everyone loves it because they're like, cool, we're not doing any work today. I love it because I'm like, strategy time. Like as soon as I see that syllabus, I immediately go to the part where it's like breakdown of what the assignments are worth. Because usually it's like, oh, you have this term paper, it's worth like 20% of your grade, or you have this project worth this, homework's worth this, yada, yada, whatever. Like these things are due on these days type of thing. And I would love it when I saw like, oh, okay, final exams like 30%, right? Like all your tests equal like 50 to 80% of your grade. And then you have major projects, it's like 20%. And then you look and I'm like, oh, all the homework combined is worth 5% or 10% of your grade. Immediately, I'm like, I'm not doing any of the homework. 0. Because what takes the most time every day? Like an hour or 2 of homework. I mean, obviously, if you need to do it to like learn the concept, but for most of the classes, it's like, if you just pay attention in class, you can usually pick it up depending on the subject. Obviously, mathematics, like you need to do the repetition, the practice over and over again. But for other classes where it's like history and things like that, like you don't need to fucking do the homework.
It's like learning by osmosis, I call it. Yeah. That's what made college so hard, though, because I never freaking went to class. So then memorizing things. So you then would essentially just say, all right, what's my highest rate of return activity, which is just like getting an A on the big tests.
Yeah. And that didn't always work. Like I definitely repeated some classes in college, but I also was like, when I was at community college, screwing around, not taking it as serious. But to give you an example, like one class I went to was a intro to like computer or something you have to take when you're doing business major. And the first day I sit there like, oh, this would be interesting. Like it was literally like a look around and I'm the youngest person in the class, like in my early 20s. Everyone's like a senior citizen. And they're like, this is a mouse.
They're taking it because they're like, I need to figure out how this.
They don't know how to even use a computer. And I was like, oh my God, is this what this class really is? And I was like, ugh. So I looked at the syllabus and the final was worth 75% of your grade.
Ooh.
And there was nothing that said anything about attendance. Like most colleges, they don't care. So after that class, I didn't show up for the entire semester to any of the classes. I showed up on the day of the final and the professor was like, you're still in this class? I thought you like dropped. And I said, no, I didn't drop. And she's like, you didn't even do any of the work or anything. She's like, I think you're like failed. And I was like, no, I have to get like a 88% on the final and I passed the class. And she was like, okay, good luck. I'm sure under her breath, she was like, fucking asshole.
Yeah. She was like, wow, this dude.
But I got like an 89% on the test and passed with a 71%. I was just like, deuces.
Wow. Good for you, dude. So yeah, I honestly think with the college thing too, I don't know though, like, I didn't like get out of college and go work at like a really high end company. So they may actually give a shit about your GPA. But yeah, my GPA was abysmal. I had a similar situation, but I actually wound up begging a professor to pass me. I was like, dude, it was like an advanced Excel class. I'm like, I'm never going to use this. I'm like, what can we do here? He like threw me a bone. He's like, all right, man.
Like another example that I always liked in English classes. Usually most English classes, you'll do a couple term papers, right? It's like read this book for a couple weeks and then you have to write like a term paper about whatever, topics after. Well, usually most of the class and semesters, like 3 term papers you have to do roughly, right? Or however many. And my strategy was like, I would just really do a shitty job on purpose on the first paper. Put like half of your effort into it, like do minimal editing or like correcting. So your paper's like looks like shit, right? Because a lot of the times the teacher will leave all this feedback, like this all fucked up, like you better do better on the next one, right? Then also go to the office hour like once or twice during the semester and just be like, hey, like I'm curious, like, pretend that you need help. And then the second essay, you put like 75% effort in it and the teacher says, oh, you're taking the feedback I gave you, you're like improving. And then the last essay, you write a normal, like your best ability essay. And you do badass. So you usually get like a D on the first paper and like a C-ish on the second, and then you get an A on the last one. But the teacher's like, oh my God, you're the best student. You took my feedback. Like they helped you grow as a student and molded you, and they'll fucking pass you. I'm serious.
Dude, you're going to get some absurd like tweets from like the Teachers of America Association or something. I mean, that's an exceptional strategy to game the system. And I mean, you know what? Here's the thing. Outside of you revealing that secret, you probably really made a lot of people's like semester doing that. Like, oh my God, this guy listened and he learned and he got better.
And then like more strategies would be, going on ratemyprofessor.com is the greatest thing in the world. It's basically like Yelp for professors. And I would read the things and I like look for professors who are like, oh, easy grade or whatever, or the ones that are like, oh, they have side businesses and side jobs, or like this one's going for their master's degree. Perfect. Guess what they're focused on? Doing that shit, not grading your papers and your homework. So like to give you an example, one of the classes I had, it was English, and the gal was working on her. She was young. She was probably like, she was younger than me, like in her mid 20s. And she, cause I didn't start going to college till after the army, but she was like, oh yeah. Like she was chill. Like I'm working on my master's thesis statement. Like, you know, I like to just, when I grade papers, like open a bottle of wine and just like have a good time while I'm grading the papers. And I was like, oh really? So I would always make sure, even if I was done writing in class essays, I would just sit there and pretend. I would just take some paper and doodle, and I wouldn't turn my, like, I wouldn't want to turn paper in. And then when I went to turn my paper in, like everyone's done, I would slide my paper at the very bottom of the stack, because then she picks up all the papers, puts them in her like bag to go home. And then when she gets home, she just pulls them out, and I assume just grabs the first one and starts grading. So she's drinking wine. By the time she gets to my paper, she drank the whole fucking bottle of wine. She's in a rush because she wants to work on her thesis, whatever statement. Do you think she's really like grading my paper that hard? She's just like, yeah, sounds good. Like you get a fucking B. You good.
Huh.
So,
dude, how do you feel? Let me ask you this, because that's ballsy. I would never have the balls to do that. How are you so confident in that strategy working?
Well, you also test it, right? Like if that doesn't work and you like get a really shitty grade the first one, then you're like, okay, fuck, like I need to like actually put in the effort.
So
but 9 times out
of like risk reward involved in this.
Yeah. It's like when you do have to do homework, say you have to like at the end of the chapter answer the review questions at the end of the chapter, like 10 questions, right? So the first time you turn in, you'll write legit answers for all of them. But in the middle, like question 7 or something, you just put like some bullshit answer that doesn't make sense. And then you turn it in. And if you get full credit on the thing, they obviously didn't read any of your answers, or they only read the first 1 or 2. So then you know, okay, next time you start putting in more bullshit. And then it's like, you know, they're just doing this. Like I was a teacher's assistant in high school, and I just would like look and, hey, if there was 10 questions and you like had a couple sentences for each, I just gave you full credit. I didn't even read. So I assume that's what the teachers are also doing.
Yeah, they've got to have shortcuts. It's like,
yeah, they don't want to spend 4 hours every day grading homework.
What's that?
They don't want to spend hours every night grading homework.
Dude, and that's the thing. Like that's such, by the way, like teaching is such an important job, but like not a job I would ever advise anyone to go into unless they become like a professor or something, because you make no money and no one tells you it doesn't end when you leave, because you got to go freaking grade stuff. Like if I was a teacher, there's zero. Anything that couldn't be graded with a computer or a Scantron machine, I wouldn't do it. It would never happen. Maybe one essay, like a semester.
Yeah.
That's an 80-20 that they should take on. But yeah, I mean, like it's an unsung job. Teachers are wild too. They like to party hard. I used to bartend, and I remember bartending it was like a farewell party for like a principal, and I was blown away by how hard these ladies partied.
And I'm not like saying this is a dig on teachers or teachers are dumb or anything. They just have lives and they're human and they want to enjoy themselves just like us. And obviously, like, I felt like I was learning this stuff because I would pay attention in class, but like, you know, come on.
Here's the thing.
We know a lot of it's busy work.
Statistically, if your let's say their first 3 answers are like really well thought out, they're going to assume it's by like the general tone of the rest of the assignment. So that actually makes perfect sense in my mind, especially the way you test it by like slowly like reverse engineering it from like the back. That's pretty slick.
Yeah. And then another strategy. So once I transferred to like like a regular college or whatever, did like 2 years at a community college, which took more than 2 years. But once I got to a regular college, I was like, all right, like I gotta like put some more effort in so I can be done with this. And I was working full time. So my last 2 semesters, I took 5 classes, and then my last one was 6 classes. So I was taking 24 units while working full time. And I I think five A's and one B that semester or something like that. And one of those was the B was in calculus.
You just take business calc?
Yes.
Oh, why? I don't understand that.
It's
like that's just them being like, fuck, we need to get more kids in calculus. Business calculus. Like, dude, I barely do math. I actually made a point to do more math in my head because of how dumb my brain was getting in math. Like I was doing like 6 plus 9 math, right? So now I'm like, all right, dude, try it in your head, and then I allow myself to like double check it. But then I got comfortable being like, I know that's the answer. Because a lot of math, especially the lower level math, is memorizing at the end of the day.
Yep. Yeah, like the times tables.
Exactly.
So one of the teachers I had, he like on his like part-time worked for AT&T or something like that. He was like a high level supervisor for people who would run like telephone line and like power cables and stuff like that. Like, and we started the class, he put out the syllabus, and I just told him that this was my strategy that semester for like every teacher day one after the syllabus. So just say, hey, I work full time. You know, I have this many classes a semester. You know, I squeeze these extra 2 in so I could like graduate this semester and not have to take summer classes. Are you okay if I turn in homework early? Like, is it okay to turn in projects early and stuff like that? And most of them were like, cool, yeah, no problem. And he was like, yeah, I don't care. So one of my days off from work, because I'd work like 4 10s, I just sat down and for 8 hours, I just went through syllabus, did every project and homework in that class, because it was like a awesome international business class. So it was really interesting, but also like kind of easy. And I remember like the third day of class, I was just like, hey, here's all the fucking homework and projects for the whole year. And he was like, and I was like, hey man, I told you I'm not messing around. Like I gotta, like, now this class is like done. I basically just have to attend and that's it. So now that homework load is done. But like the third week, there was like some hurricane that happened in Florida and like wreaked havoc. And he got like on call emergency, basically had to go to like Atlanta for 3 months to like supervise them restoring power and all this stuff. So we got like a substitute to come in, and like everyone was like turning projects and doing all this stuff. I was just in the class, like all done, just chilling. Like he already gave me my A for the semester.
That's awesome.
So I don't know.
He was things like gone essentially, and you were like, oh,
yeah.
I played the 10.
He loved it because he's like, oh, great, you just made my life easier. Like, you know, this stuff's all done.
One less person, yeah. That's super smart too, because a lot of the 80-20 principle, a lot of it is like shaving off time, like maximizing your time, like return on investment, rate of return activities. So if you got in like a really deep focus state and just cranked out all the work, even if you did that work over a series of, you know, weeks, you would have taken way more time. Just like the ritual of like getting the materials out, getting focused, doing the work. Instead, you just were like in a deep flow state in one fell swoop. So you probably saved a handful of hours on top of that.
Well, yeah, because you're not having to jump from subject to subject and like kind of diving back in. You just deep dive that whole thing at once.
That's smart. I want to give a little, this is really cool, if you don't mind, the Pareto principle.
Oh, yeah.
So the guy who invented it, Alfredo Pareto, where's this guy's name? What was his name? Pareto. What is Pareto's name? Not bored. But anyway, essentially, he found this phenomenon that 20% of the people in Italy owned 80% of the land. And then he's like, I wonder if this is like happening anywhere else in the world. So it was kind of like what we're talking about. 20% of input creates 80% of results. 20% of workers produce 80% of the results. So at any company, your A players literally contribute 80% of the bulk of your workload, your clients, your money, whatever. 20% of customers.
I 100% agree with that. Everywhere I've worked, I would say that is 100% the case.
Dude, and this is cool. So 20% of customers, 80% of revenue, 20% of bugs cause 80% of crashes. 20% of the features are 80% of the usage. It's like, it's so universal, it's insane. Like, it's 20% of the wealth is 80% of the wealth is owned by 20% of the people, blah, blah, blah. But like, this is interesting, actually, talking about the workers thing. I just read this article about how Steve Jobs used to do his hiring. And he, instead of like just trying to build a big workforce, would just get a small, extremely high paid workforce of A players. And he found that by doing that, which takes a lot more time and like resources, when they work together, they're like, holy shit, this is awesome. Because most A players, there might be a couple at a company, maybe less than 5%, maybe less than 10% usually. Let's say even if it's 20%, but they're not like on the same team. Like they're usually like parsed out so they can like fill the A team gap. You know, like you don't have a team of Michael Jordan. So you have like Jordan, you have like a couple guys that are good and then one guy that sucks, or is like good enough. So that I guess is like part of the secret sauce at Apple.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Well, and then I would imagine too, like when you're surrounded by other people who are pushing and working as hard as you, it motivates you to also keep going. And if you're competitive too, then you're also like, oh yeah, your commission was like $1 million this year. Well, I'm going to do $1.5 million, like, and beat you.
It's that whole thing.
Whatever.
Like, I think the biggest separator with A players is just commitment to putting in the effort to win. So there are people who will work harder when they need to. You know, I think a lot of A players do work intelligently. Some are just workaholics. Whatever works, right? I don't care what for someone's strategies. I prefer the smarter, not harder. But if I need to outwork someone to win, then I'll freaking do it. If I'm like competing against another person who I consider an A player, like it'll make me work harder than I want to, because I'd rather win than be conservative on my like work effort.
What about you, Joe? Do you have any, I don't know, I guess like hack tips or?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm always looking to shave off time. Like I do shit like if I'm like filling up the coffee pot, I'm trying to like dunk the trash at the same time to like maximize my time and effectiveness. One thing I always do is I'm always thinking like, what's the highest rate of return activity? So at any given moment, I'm trying to like do whatever that is. I'm trying to think what the best 80-20 thing. I'm always looking for the simplest, easiest solution. I feel like the small, easy solutions that are like the ahas are like the better than like the shit where they're like, whoa, we just gotta work harder. It's like there's probably something that's better than working harder. What's the Bill Gates quote? Give a hard task to a lazy man, because he'll figure out an easy way to do it.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, there's got to be an easier way to do this. Like, why am I making this so hard for myself? Fuck, 80. I don't know. 80-20. I think the biggest thing is just looking for simple solutions. Like, I've been getting really into golf, and it can get so effing complicated. And I found this teacher, his name's Manuel de Torres. He's dead, but he was like a big golf figure. And his method is literally like, you put the club here, and then you put the club here. And it's like, it's so nice. Stupid and simple, but I was like, oh, I'm just thinking about getting the club over my right shoulder and swinging it so it ends up over my left shoulder. And like, it takes out all the extra crap and allows you to just like be natural. And I think that probably was the most recent thing that I could call like an 80-20. So I was trying all sorts of weird shit, like stick your butt out and do this and then do that. It's like, it was so like dogmatic and complicated that I was like, this is just not working for me.
Yeah. And you got to turn your wrists over and, bend your elbow and, like, what is it? Pivot on your like heel on one foot and toe on the other. And it's just, there's a lot to think about. Shit. Yeah.
I'm even taking golf lessons.
Then you end up lifting your head up because you want to watch where your ball goes and you completely shank it or miss it.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's keep my head down.
This strategy, it's all about like being like natural. Like even if you look at the pros, they have a couple like key points that are like they're doing, but they all do a similar thing within their own like natural posture. Right. So when you try to like do the exact replica thing, it's like you have to do like the thing that works best for you. I don't know. I got to think about that 80-20 thing more. I wish I had a really good example. I do love productivity hacks though. Like I'm freaking obsessed with productivity hacks.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any examples of a productivity hack that you're using at work or?
Yeah, my biggest things are I don't remember anything. Like I give myself the freedom to not remember anything. So every thing that I need to do, I use like a to-do app and then a calendar. So like, and then my like daily reminders I have go off on my Amazon Echoes. So I know I'm going to forget stuff. And until something becomes a habit, I have like every day at 10:30 and 2:30, the Echo tells me to drink water. Cool. Well, now I know I'll never forget to drink water, right? Because it's easy to forget for whatever reason. If something takes 5 minutes, I'll do it right away. If something's going to take longer than 5 minutes, I add it to my to-do list and I go back to what I'm doing. So I'm never allowing myself to forget anything, but I'm also not stopping unless it's a really quick activity.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I do a similar thing. You can see here the little dry erase board. So it's the same thing throughout the day when I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do this thing. I just on the board it goes.
I like that because you can also be a completionist at the end of the day. You just look at the board because then all you got to do is all you have to remember is look at the board.
Well, and it's in my peripheral, so as soon as I always turn this way to like go to the kitchen to water or something, and I constantly keep seeing it. And then when I finish something, I just erase it off. But those are mostly like non-work kind of things that are like, oh, after work, I got to do this or whatever. But
it's easier I like to that. Things.
I'm the same way. Like, like if I have a list of 20 things to do, but I know 2 or 3 of them are going to take the bulk of the time. In my mind, I'm like, all these quick things, I'd rather knock them out to shrink the list like as quick as possible.
Dude, yes. I shit you, I was talking about that earlier today. It's a Mark Zuckerberg. Most people are like, do the hard thing first, which I get that. It's the thing you least want to do. But when you do the hard thing first, it sucks. It uses a lot of your time and energy, and then you only got one thing done. Whereas if you knock out all those small things, you're building momentum. And then you're like, I'm getting all this stuff done. And then you're much more likely to do the hard thing and then get everything done versus doing the hard thing and being like, fuck that, I'm done. Yeah,
I 100% agree.
He's like, I think it's more effective to start doing really easy tasks and building momentum.
Yeah, it's almost like if you were to do any, like a sport or anything that you're first learning or even a job, you start off with like simple tasks to build confidence and get, like you said, the momentum going. So the list is the same way. And if you knocked out 19 of those 20 things, that last 20 thing is like going to take an hour. It's going to be terrible. At that point, you're just like, that's the only thing I got left. Like, I'll just get it done and be done with it. And then you feel like extra accomplished. This
is another hack. It's totally psychological. When I lift weights, I count the number backwards. So I found that, and I read an article about this. I'm like, let me try it. When you start from 1, it's easy to give up before you hit your goal. Whereas if you're counting backwards, and say if I counted from 1, I would have done 8. But if I count down from 10 and I get to 2, I'm like, all right, man, 2 more. Like, I can do 2 more. It's really weird psychologically, but you're setting your goal and then going reverse engineering it. That actually, I've been doing that for years, has helped a ton.
That makes sense, like, perfectly.
It's funny how like we have to trick our brains because like there's this Anthony Bourdain quote. It's essentially like, I know deep down there's this like guy inside me who wants to like lay around, smoke weed, and play video games all day, and my entire life is a series of systems in order to outsmart that guy. And I feel like that is like, I want to be successful and I want to get shit done, but like, I really don't want to do anything. Like when I'm rich, I'm not going to do shit. Like I'm going to do just leisure stuff all the time.
Yeah, I definitely like that. An example that I heard that someone was telling me, I won't say who, but because I don't want to get them in trouble, but, and I don't know if this is a hack, I guess people might think it's shady or whatever, but I don't think it's shady. Like, the example was they saw like this mountain bike they really want to get on OfferUp or something, right? And the bike's listed at, I don't know, like $5,000, like a really nice mountain bike. And, it's been on there a while or whatever. And they were like, well, I'm willing to pay 4 for it. Like, let me see if this guy will sell it to me for $4,000. So the strategy was, I got my buddy also go on OfferUp and offered like $3,500 for it. And then I come in and offer 4 for it. and they reject that $3,500 offer and accepted my $4,000 offer because it looked so much better than the other offer they got, but I still saved like significant. But if I would have just came in at 4, they probably would have rejected it like right off the bat. And I don't think that's shady because like that person doesn't have to sell it to you. No one's forcing them, but you know, it's
that's
like
a good
similar.
Strategy, honestly. I mean, it's just like, that's business 101 right there, dude. You know, it's like, to your point, it's if someone has a hard limit, you know what I mean? Like when you set a price of something, like I sold like this exercise bike I had. I paid like $400. I'm like, you know, I was like, I'm going to fucking just give this thing away. I'm going to throw it. And like, you know what? I'm going to pay someone to pick it up. Like I would have given it away. I don't want it in my house. So I listed it at 165, which is just a weird little number. Knowing like I'd get a couple like softballs, I only wanted $125 for it realistically. And some guy came in at like we did the dance and I made it go down to like 125. And then like, but yeah, it's just like, I think that is just a more, what your buddy did is just a little bit more of a like pre-planned method, which I think that's slick. People probably do that to buy houses all the time, actually, or buy businesses.
Something I like to do in my routine is because waking up at 4:30 to go to the gym is just not happening for me. So
yeah, that's awful.
I'm just like, I'll go on my lunch break, and then it also makes me like actually make sure I take my lunch break, and it's good because super close. I can walk there in like 5 minutes, but usually I just drive because it's like cold or raining or whatever. But
I love
that. Well, and sometimes when I'm done, you know, when you're done working out and you feel like nauseous and like your like legs are wobbly and you're like about to keel over any second. That's also part of why I'm like, I don't want to have to walk back after that. But like for me, just eating something for that hour or whatever, like sitting around, I'm like, that's wasting time. Instead I do the gym, and then to eat, like I just take like a 5-minute break, make something, and then eat while I'm like checking emails. So for me, that's kind of like a time saver or efficient to where now by going to the gym, I made sure I went. And also when I'm done working, my free time that I have is not, I don't have to go to the gym.
I love getting the gym done before I do the day because then you're done. You know, like I go in the morning, but then I also start doing like work stuff, but I'm like, I do my emails and then any like outstanding like chat messages like in between sets. So it's like I'm resting, getting my workout done and getting ahead of the day. So when I come into work, then I'm like already ready to rock. But yeah, you get multiple shit done. And then the best thing for me is like when I'm done, I'm like, hey, I'm done with work and I'm done with everything. Going to the gym after work, I did it for years, but it's like, you're like, I don't want to go.
You don't put as much like effort or intensity into it because you're already like drained.
Really push yourself. Mornings are different though because it's like you're not fed and then your testosterone levels are a little lower. At least I found I'm not as strong in the morning, but it's a worthwhile sacrifice to get it done and like, you know, 80-20 essentially. Dude, I want to find more about this Pareto principle, like the background of it. This is all a bunch of shit that's like more like capitalist focused. I want to see the stuff that's like talks about Alfredo Pareto. Pareto.
I got a dad joke for you while you're looking that up.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, which days are the strongest?
Which days are the strongest? Which ones?
Saturday and Sunday. The rest are weekdays.
Okay, I like that. Who was the Pareto principle named after? Is that it? Vilfredo Pareto? He's an economist in 1906. Very nice. Yeah, it's pretty cool though. I think 80-20 is like the shit. And I highly recommend that book if you're like in the market for a new book. It's so good. I was like, oh my God, this guy's a freaking genius. There's so many good nuggets in it. I feel like I need to listen to it again.
I feel like Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week. It's been a while since I read it, but I'm pretty sure he like totally lives by that too, because he's like, in order to only work 4 hours a day, like you got to do that, the little few things that are going to accomplish 80% of the stuff. Like, don't waste your time bogged down in other things.
He takes it like he took it like extreme. He did like a 90-10. And like so he like essentially got rid of like almost 90% of his customers because they were just like time wasters, and kept the bulk of the ones that were making the most money. Told his employees that as long as it didn't cost more than like $100 to solve the problem themselves. Got a virtual assistant to do all of his emails and only escalate ones that required his work. And then as soon as he got I think he made like $14 million off that company. As soon as he got an offer, he was like, done. I mean, he's gone on to be like really successful. But I mean, like, I don't know. Do you think that like caps your ability to be successful? Because I know like for years, the guy wasn't even like gathering an email list and like doing like email marketing that he could have probably made another, 7 figures a year off of.
Yeah, I'm definitely right. Like if he put in more effort, he would make more, but at the same time, quality of life or what's important to you, like, hey, is riding off in the sunset with $14 million with like never really working or very low effort in a system that works well, or busting your butt every day and making 140 million.
True. It's like, what do you really need?
Yeah.
It would be cool to have a private plane and all that shit, but like at the end of the day, I think my goal, honestly, if I can have $1 million passive income, which I think is like what, 17 million bucks at 5%, I would be fine with that. Or maybe that's 6%. And that's kind of a lot of money, but it's not like, if you look at the scheme of what's possible and what people are doing monetarily, even that much. Like, I feel like that's accomplishable.
Well, if you pay your house off that you're living in, or whatever your situation is where you don't have a mortgage, you're just paying property taxes and utilities, and your car's paid off, you could be living off like $100,000 a year in passive income easily. Like your bills would be nothing.
The gross income, right?
Yeah, after taxes.
Oh, okay.
Like, think about it. Like, if you had $10,000 a month, that's be $120,000 a year, and let's say your bills are $2,000 a month. You got $8,000 to just do whatever with every month. You don't need to have $100 million to like live way more than comfortable, right?
Yeah,
and even at that amount,
live a nice life on $10K a month. Easily.
Yeah, you could fly private jets at $8,000 a month in passive income. I mean, you wouldn't be able to fly every month, but
yeah, you do like a couple trips a year, and you just like
you could do a couple trips a year.
Jet, what are those like jet timeshare deals, or like you've seen
like X-Jet and stuff like that? Yeah, they're like $10K to take a trip or whatever.
Swipe it, get the points.
Well, and you can do the ones too where like you like purchase the ride, right? But then you can sub-sell out each of the extra seats that are on there.
Oh,
like a ride share on a private jet. So like,
they have this site too where you could book them. Sorry, when they'll like send you an alert, like, we have a leg from Chicago to Los Angeles, and they just like it's like they got to fly the plane there, so they just want to get some money. It's like you can do it for like $800, which is
they're like, we're flying there anyway because we drop someone off, we're picking someone up over here, and we have no passengers. So hey, exactly. If we get someone on, at least we make some money.
That's a big 80-20 right there. How do you fly? Mm-hmm. I would call that an 80-20, maximizing your dough to get a private plane ticket. That's what I like about Tim Ferriss's thing too. It's like, it's not really about getting rich. It's about working as little as possible to create intelligent lifestyle design. So if you can do X, Y, Z, and then that supports your lifestyle, or like a trip around the world on like a sailboat. I think they talk about that family that does that. They like, I don't know what they did, but they like made like $40,000, and they were like, cool, that's for this trip around the world.
I couldn't do that, man. The ocean, like I'll go swim in the ocean and stuff, but I couldn't be on a little boat like way out in the ocean for days and weeks on end. Like
waist deep max.
The ocean scares me, man. Even when I'm swimming out there, I'm just like paranoid as shit because I can't. You can see like a foot in front of you, if even that. And I'm just like, man, there could be a shark swimming underneath you right now. Like, That ain't for me.
Fear of the unknown, but it's like you're in the water. God knows what's below you, especially if you go further out. Yeah, I'm good on ocean stuff.
I stay my ass on the beach and I just dig like a hole in the sand and chill. When I was a kid, we were in Hawaii and on vacation. And I remember I was out in the water, like having fun or we were playing it. And I was only in waist deep water. And I shit you not, like something brushed against my leg, like something big. And my brother laughs when he tells the story. He's like, you literally ran on top of the water, like running out of the water. And I think at the time I was maybe like 7 or something, like totally scared out of my mind. And we look and then we see like the sea turtle flipper, like coming over the water and then like going back down in the shell. It was a sea turtle that
still
like, brushed against me. But I'm like,
touched on water, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm like shark or something, like, or there have been times I've been like swimming in a lake or something and it's kind of murky and you're just like swimming like by the boat. And as I'm like treading water or whatever, just chilling there, all of a sudden my foot hits something like kicking down. And I'm just like, nope, I'm out of here. Like I see too many Lake Placid movies and all this. And it's probably a fish.
Those movies, dude.
It's probably a fish swimming by that got kicked.
But they just traumatize everyone. I mean, shark attacks, I think, are so, it's like
rare.
What's the percentage of, I want to be curious about that, chance to get bit by a shark?
You probably got like a great chance of being struck by lightning.
Okay, so that's a good one. 1 in 3,750,000 shark. Let's see, chance to get struck by lightning. What? 1 in 150,000. This says, according to the NWS,
National Weather Service,
it's 1 in 15,000.
Wow.
So there's literally what is that, 15 million divided by 15,000? 15 million divided by 15,000. And you have 100 times less chance of getting bit by a shark. But I'm way more afraid of getting bit by a shark, and I'm never going to get struck by lightning. That's not even a lie. I've never been worried about getting struck by lightning.
How many people a year in the U.S. die from shark attacks?
That's from shark per year. 73.
Okay, so how many people die a year from falling out of bed? I guarantee it's significantly higher. I seen this
450.
Yep. I seen this statistic before. I don't remember the exact number. I think it was like 1,300 left-handed people die a year from using right-handed products.
That's fascinating.
Or 1,500. It was some significant number that I was like, wow, that's crazy. And then I seen one too that was like 13 people die a year from vending machines falling over on them.
13?
Yes.
So like, that's less than shark bites. So vending machines are less dangerous.
You only have like a 5 times more chance or 6 times more chance of a shark killing you than a vending machine killing you.
And in theory,
and you're probably around a vending machine like 5 times more than you are in the ocean by a shark.
Every time you go to the vending machine is the same chance. So it's actually like it's
probably the same chance as being attacked by a shark.
Yeah. Okay, and then 20,000 people die from lightning strikes every year.
Holy cow. Yes. Well, I think it's probably like you probably don't survive when that happens. But like people get attacked by sharks, like I'm sure way more survive than die, right? Because usually a shark will just bite you to see like what you are of your food, and then they like let go and they're like, yeah, that's not like a seal.
We have percentage of lightning strikes that are fatal. Oh, so that means that only 10% of lightning strikes are fatal. So 90% of lightning strikes.
Okay. So if 50,000 people a year die from lightning strikes, and that's only 10%, then that means what, 500,000, 500,000 people a year getting struck by lightning?
Yeah, so 20,000 die every year. So that means...
so 200,000 are getting struck.
Yeah.
If it's a 10x. Oh my God.
Wow.
Uh,
That's fucking
I mean,
nuts. That's a lot.
my brother almost got struck by lightning when we were little.
How close was it?
Like a foot, two. If he didn't,
Did it
if
like
he didn't move,
did it like pop him
would've
off
hit
the
him.
ground?
I think he said it knocked him backwards. Like it was,
Yeah.
we were living in California and it was raining and we used to get like decent lightning storms out there a lot, which I feel like those happened a lot as a kid, and as an adult, like they don't ever happen anymore. But so we had a dog kennel like out, and at that time we lived on like a half acre or something like that, kind of out in the middle of like the country. And he went out to feed the dog because it was like raining stuff in the kennel, and it was an outside only dog because it was like Cujo, so it couldn't come in the house because it was like bite us. Which I don't know why you'd have a dog that's like that, but whatever.
That was a mean dog, bro.
So he went in there to feed him, and while he was in the pen, so the pen was basically like chain link fence around with like metal posts like holding it up and a concrete pad, and the rest was just like dirt area of the property. And the lightning came down, and I don't remember if he said like he like ducked into the doghouse or like it knocked him into the doghouse, but it struck like right in the middle of the concrete pad in where the dog thing was at.
Does the dog okay too?
Yeah,
Cujo's like invincible.
probably.
That's
It's
nuts,
probably made him more
dude.
crazy.
My dad had a guy who he worked with who got similar situation. It was in a parking lot, and the thing hit the ground, and the guy like, and I'm gonna exaggerate because I don't remember what it was, but it knocked him back enough to where he landed and broke his rib. Like, it was
Holy
like,
cow!
boom, and then he freaking fell on his ribby rooski. What's up with this Cujo dog? Tell me that story. Why'd you guys have a maniac like Sandlot dog?
I don't remember full details. Like I was probably like 5 or 6 when we had that dog, but I just remember it might have just been very rambunctious, and like, you know, when you're a little kid, and I think it was like a medium-sized dog, like the size of a lab or something. So, you know, as a kid, that kind of thing jumping on you, and they're constantly like, I don't know, think you're playing, like biting you and stuff. So to me, I was like, that dog is fucking scary. Like,
I get
so
that.
maybe it wasn't that bad, but it didn't get to come in the house. So
And maybe it was like a kind of a maniac dog, and that's why maybe your mom was like, this dog's not coming in anymore now that we have kids. Because I had a friend who had a dog who was like a psycho. His name was Bear. And I thought the dog was going to like murder me when I was a little kid, because we would like run from it and it would chase us. And I was like, oh, this thing could maul me to death. But I think the dog was just playing, and it just didn't really, you know, realize it because I was like a little kid.
mm-hmm. Well, especially if you run as a kid, right? Then it just thinks you're playing and it wants to run and like tackle you and gnaw on you.
Dude, my dog is a beagle, like lab mix or something. He's a beagle mutt, but he's got those like midget legs. He's like 30 pounds, but he's like really short. But he's got this menacing like howl, and he barks, and he's like not socialized because he's a COVID dog. So I'm going to take the dog outside to take a poop, and he starts bolting down the stairs, and my neighbor's there, and I don't like push the leash thing in time. And he's like, roo, 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 roo. She literally like jumps back, and I don't notice it until I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I go outside. She like jumped out of her slippers. Like the slippers were in the same spot, and she was like 3 feet back. So that was pretty funny, but it's funny how like, because you know your dog's nice, but like other people are like, what is this menacing howling beast coming towards me?
Mm-hmm. Well, especially he's so short. I saw the picture that you showed of him, and he's like a thick dog, but I mean, he's low to the ground. Like if a Chihuahua, I'm not saying he's way bigger than Chihuahua, but if a Chihuahua came running at me, I'd be like, yeah, you're a little rat dog, like a kick dog. Like that's what you are. You could just kick them.
Dude, I'm like
try
honestly
to bite
like
or attack
lucky.
you.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm lucky that the lady didn't like kick him in the face. Like if a dog came at me like that, I would be like, it's not happening, bro. Like I wouldn't be scared. I'd be like, let's rage.
Mm-hmm.
I think you kind of know though if you're a dog owner, if your dog's like being playful versus being like aggressive. But I don't think she's like a dog person, this particular neighbor.
Oh.
I mean, shame on me though. It's like I can't expect her to know my dog's nice. Let's see how many people die from dog attacks. Number of fatal dog attacks. 30 to 50. Okay, it's pretty low.
Okay, so I got a question for you. This is a random question, but do you have like a bucket list country, like top place you'd want to visit on your list?
The first thing I thought of was
where would it
Italy.
be?
That'd probably be my
Italy.
bucket list. What about you?
Mine would be Ireland.
Ooh, are you
Ireland,
Irish?
Scotland. Like partially on my dad's side.
Okay.
But I don't know what it is. Like I just really like drawn there, and green and trees is like really like good for me. Like
You live in a perfect space.
revitalizes me. Yeah. Like I was told like by someone who, like can basically read that kind of stuff. They were like, yeah, Arizona, not for you. Like desert environment's not like like trees, like revitalize your energy and like your person and spirit and everything like that, like trees and water. So I'm like, perfect. I'm in the right area.
When I was in Seattle, I was blown away by how beautiful and green everything was. But the grayness depresses me. But I'm like, you know what? It has to rain that much because that's why it's so beautiful and green. So if Seattle wasn't cloudy, I would freaking live there because the greenery is incredible.
Mm-hmm. And I think Ireland's very similar. Like they get a lot of rain and gray and like dreary.
It's just like kind of wet all the time. It's like that like dew. Dude, I would go to Ireland with you. I want to freaking drink a Guinness.
Right.
I freaking love Guinness. I want to drink a Guinness from like the Guinness thing or like in a shitty dive bar in Ireland. That would be awesome.
Yes.
They don't even refrigerate.
Okay. When I go, you're. I said when I go, you're going.
Dude, yeah, let's do it. Sorry,
I'll hit you up
for a sec.
It's all right. We'll fly private jet there when the hypothetical investments pop off. So,
dude, speaking of which, XRP is about to go insane again. $100 million XRP purchase.
Hell yeah! But back to what you're saying, like
I read 400 million XRP has been bought in the last like few months by whales.
Good. They're probably expecting everyone's like, when the lawsuit's over, the price is going to spike. I have a feeling it won't spike.
You don't think so?
That's kind of a way for people in holding that'll get frustrated and dump their bags.
So they're gonna think it's gonna spike, and then if it doesn't, you think they'll dump, or do you think it'll spike and then the people that are bag holding will just dump to break even?
That could be. It could spike to like $5 or $10, and everyone will be like, "Yeah, whoop, so rich." And then a ton of people sell. The few people don't. Then maybe the real price begins.
That's why it's like
the buying for your own private island prices.
Yeah, that's why I like having that like money where you can go, cool, let me hold longer, and like because you don't need it. So important, so important. It's like if you need it, I think you just have to like take the like kind of we talked about like shorter term gains, like spacing it out psychologically, so you can still get some just in case. Because that story I told about that stock Ocugen that I missed out on like several $1,000s on. I think it was like maybe $5,000. I'm still fucking holding that stock. I've been dollar cost averaging this piece of shit just sheerly because of my ego for like a year or two. Like it was up almost $20. And I've been buying since $2 all the way up to $16, and my average cost is like $5.25, and the stock is under $2. Like I've probably essentially destroyed my stock account on this particular account. It's like my just trading account because of this fucking stock. So I'm literally going to hold it until I at least break even, which could be who knows how long.
And I'm not telling people don't sell, like take profits for sure, but I wouldn't sell 100%. Maybe just not sell 10% of it, right?
Yeah. I think the best rule is like play with house money. I like to space it out a bit, but if you double, sell half, and then you don't have to worry about it, get your money back.
And we've been messing around with some puts, and I know you've been buying, I forget what the term was, like where you buy calls and puts in like bracket.
Yeah, what is that called?
I forget the term. But yeah, we'll have to update everyone, here. I know we got some out for a while, but I'm like, damn it, whoever had Meta, they're fucking raking it in on those puts. Like, did you see that? Meta's down like 20% this week.
Serious? It's called the straddle.
Yeah.
That's what it's called, the straddle.
Oh, okay, straddle.
Yeah.
And they're down like 70% since they did the name change, and it was at the all-time high.
Oh
or whatever.
my god!
Like,
I think I'm of the mind now where the stock like that, I want to buy it because Facebook's not going anywhere. It's in a shitter. You can probably make money on short-term shorting and short-term puts, but I think a lot of these big brands like Snap I bought when it bottomed out, and I'm up 25% on it already, and I'm just gonna hold it. It's literally 10x lower than its high. I wish I had calls though. I'm like, what the fuck did I just buy calls?
Oh, it's so hard to guess on these things. I'm sure people thought like MySpace wasn't going to go anywhere either too. But I think you're right. Like Facebook wouldn't go anywhere because I'm pretty sure they sell data to like a lot of companies for like sales, right? So people can direct advertising to like people based on their search criteria and their likes and all that crap, as well as like, you know, selling people's profiles to the government agencies and shit.
God,
so yeah, I think you're right. They ain't going anywhere. Did you see Elon? There was some video of Elon like carrying a sink into the Twitter headquarters, and I'm like, what is he like? Just took everything and the kitchen sink. I'm like, I don't get like what the I don't know what the statement was he was trying to make. Like, so I don't know if you had seen that or what your thoughts were
now
on that. It's just the top, yeah, like a solid piece with like the counter where the sink's built into the counter. Like it's all like one piece of like ceramic or whatever.
What a weirdo. There we go.
And I was like,
what just happened? Nope. Okay, we're on TikTok now. Refresh.
Like I'm sure there's some inside meaning or message. Someone leave a comment in the comments of like if you know what the deal was.
That's a beautiful office. You carried it in?
Yeah.
No, weirdo.
So I'm like, whatever. I was like, you know, when you're a billionaire, I guess you just do wild shit. So
I'm really looking forward to that aspect of being like loaded when you can just be like eccentric and you're like,
yes,
you just don't care.
Like today when I went to Costco and I have basketball shorts on that have paint on them from painting like years ago, and I just give zero fucks.
I love that for you.
I just walk around. I'm sure people just look at me and they're like, that guy looks like he's like, I don't know, makes minimum wage or lives in a cardboard box, like behind a building. And then that'll be the going outside to like get in my Bentley or something and be like, deuces.
I used to be of that mind until I realized that like Costco, you have to have a membership. It's not like it's cheap. It's like bulk. So you save money, but it's not inexpensive. Right. Or like if you go to like Morton's or something and then there's like someone there in like sweats, you're like, okay, that is the person who has money because this is nothing to them. It's like the people that go like all dressed up, like, ooh, special occasion, fancy restaurant. It's the dude who's like, I'll just go to Morton's, I guess. And he's like, I don't feel like changing. His wife's like,
probably he's like a regular there. And when they come in, they're like, hey, Mr. Johnson, like usual table. Like
they're like, hey, Mr. Maples. Oh, were you painting today? You're like, no. Why? And they're like, you have paint on your shorts. And you're like, oh, yeah. It's just my shorts. And they're like, okay. And then you like have dinner and then like leave. They're like, those are the real ballers. You just don't care. You're like, I just don't care.
And it's not like shorts are expensive. Like, and they're basketball shorts. I could go buy like, you know, they're like $18-20 for another pair, but I'm just like, they work. They don't have any holes in them.
I don't know. How did you cultivate that? I feel like I'm very frugal, but I like to buy stuff if I can get a good value. Like I'll go through phases of like, I'm like, ooh, my basketball shorts are dirty. Cool. I can get a new pair, and I'll like throw them out and like go find like a new pair, but I like to get a good deal.
Oh,
what do you think that is, like that versus like where you're just like, I don't care. These are cool. They're comfortable.
Well, I think part of it was like growing up, like just being like frugal or whatever, like a one household income and stuff. And like I usually take care of my stuff so it lasts a long time. Like I have the same pair of sunglasses that I've had for like probably 10 years
How
or
the
longer.
F do you not lose them?
Yeah, and I rarely lose. I never lose actually like anything. I just am good about keeping track, like put my stuff away in the same place, always find
That's
it
the
or whatever.
secret right there, dude. Yep. That's smart.
So, like I had t-shirts that were still like that I had from high school that were like 15 years old that they still fit, like they didn't have holes, they weren't faded or anything. Stuff like that. I was like, all right, like I need to like at some point get rid of some of this stuff just because it's part of like still not hanging on to the past, but like that stuff still has energy from there. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I do that. Like if I break up with someone, I like delete them. Like I'm like, I found something the other day. It was like a piece of Tupperware, and I'm like, wait, that's like a piece of Tupperware from my ex. I'm like, get rid of this thing. I'm like, I wasn't like looking for it, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, I gotta get rid of that thing. Like clothes, anything that like relates to that, the past, if it's like not positive, I'm like, this is, I don't know if it's the energy, but I don't want the reminder. I'm like, I would have never thought of this otherwise. And if it's not a positive reminder, I'm like, this is no purpose. This serves no purpose.
yeah, I agree too. It's good to purge and like get rid of stuff to be able to move on. But like I'm not a big shoe person. I just have like 2 pairs of shoes that I wear like daily, and
What kind of shoes do you like?
just wear those. Like a Nike like athletic, like a more of a running shoe because they're more comfortable.
You had some nice like wingtips when I saw you.
Oh yeah, my brother bought those for me as a graduation from college present. They're
Those are nice.
they're like handmade in this company in Wisconsin, so they're American made. They're
Which
they're
company
nice.
is it?
I have to double check the name on it, but they're nice. They're like I think those shoes were around $300 or $400.
They're Red Wings? I think those are in Minnesota. But yeah, no, that's the move, dude.
No, they're not
like
that
if you
brand.
buy it once, buy it for life. Like those shoes
They'll
are gonna
last.
you
They'll
forever.
last for life. Like putting oil on them and taking care of them and stuff like that. So, I have like a couple pairs of dress shoes and then like a couple pairs of slippers and some like slides and like that's it. But I know
slides.
people got like 30, 40 pairs of shoes. Yeah, they're just wear them around the house, that sort of thing, and that's cool. To each their own. But to me, I'm just like, I don't care.
I go
It
through
takes up
phases.
space, and I wouldn't wear them. I just keep wearing the same pair, like like a black pair or a white pair, depending on what you're wearing.
I love that for you. I go through phases with shoes. I got really into like Chuck Taylors over COVID, and I bought like 10 pairs. Like I would always make sure I got a really good deal, but I was like, oh, cool, I'm gonna have a new pair every time I go to the gym. And then like I don't even really like that style shoe anymore. I'll wear them because they're good for the gym, but yeah, I splurge very infrequently. Right now it's golf, which is very expensive, so I find myself not splurging as much. Which is kind of good though, because the price point's so high that I can't just be like a fool about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or at the
because you go buy a new driver for like $400, $500, $600 for a driver, like $1,000 for some fancy, bubble technology and weighted and adjustable and all this. And I'm like, and I still shank it left or whatever. Like,
dude, right? I bought. So the driver I bought was from a brand called Maltby. It's a custom club maker, but they're called direct to consumer. So it was like $200, but it like competes performance wise with like all the TaylorMades and all that shit. But golf is like the ultimate like brand horse sport for men. It's like, oh, were those Titleist or those TaylorMade? It's like, those are shit. Like I got a Wilson.
Let me flex my set.
Exact, dude. It's 100% like, oh, what brand is on your shirt? Dude, it's crazy because I've never felt like that as a man before until golf, and everyone like S's the D of the brands. And there's plenty of stuff out there that's really nice. Like I have Wilson D9s. They actually are longer range than all the other like OEM brands, TaylorMade, Callaway, all that other shit. But like they get shit on because it's like Wilson. Like it's just not a cool brand for golfing, right?
Oh, yeah.
But they were like half the price. I'm like, dude, these are great. But yeah,
and golf
and there's
shoes
even cheaper
too,
brands that are even nicer.
Yeah, people be spending some money on golf shoes too, like crazy, in the outfits. And I'm just like,
Dude,
Okay.
golf pants are so expensive. If you put the word golf on something, it's expensive. Like no matter what,
It's
just
like
because
weddings.
they can get away with it.
Yeah, but for men, like, oh, regular pants, $50. Golf pants, $150.
Literally a dry fit pair of pants, $30. Golf dry fit, same pair of pants, $60. It's crazy, dude. And there's like maybe something different, like you can put a T in it and it won't like poke you in the balls. Like that. It's like I don't need to spend extra $30 for that.
Thicker pocket. Yeah. That's it.
So we're at the hour mark here. Any final words for you, good sir?
One more tip, I guess, and I know this is more related towards college, but I think it's like you could use it for other situations too, is like if I had to write a paper or something on a topic, I know most people want to write something they're passionate about. Write about what the teacher is passionate about, and I guarantee you're going to get a way better grade on your paper.
That's so smart.
So like when the college that I went to, they had this program to where like before you could graduate, you had to complete like a graduation essay or some crap. So basically I had to like take an exam where you sit in this room with like all the other, people are at that session, and they'll pass you around a sheet of paper and it's timed. I think you have 2 hours to complete it. And they pass all the papers out. They're upside down. And then they'll be like, all right, everyone same time can flip their paper over, start the clock. And there's like 3 to 5 essay prompts. So like a paragraph that's on there. And you have to pick one and write like an essay from scratch right on the spot. And then, you have the 2 hours to do it or whatever, and you turn it in. And they give you, as much like paper as you want to write your essay and that sort of thing. So the first time I was like sat in there and I forget the topic and I was like, yeah, like all opinionated using these facts. And I structured it like intro, 3 body paragraphs, conclusion, like thesis, like all the crap they teach you, right? They literally, it's like a pass or fail thing. And they were like, you failed. I'm like, how is that even possible? Like, no offense, but like most of the people I was there with, they're all dummies and they pass. Like, how the fuck did they pass? Like, I'm a way better like student than they are. And then I was thinking, and I was like, oh, you know what happened? Because I was asking people, like, what was your topic you put? Like, how did you put it? And one guy I know for sure, like, I've been partners with him on projects, and I'm like, man, this guy cannot write or do anything, and he passed. And I was like, I know what I did. I took the stance opposite of, like, how these teachers, like, let's put it that way, right? Like, very liberal. Most colleges are very liberal.
So you went on a conservative path and just purely because of the... Okay.
Yeah, I think the topic I picked was like the Second Amendment, like gun rights and being a veteran and that sort of thing. I'm very like pro gun rights.
Yeah.
And I put that, and I think that's why my paper didn't pass. I could be wrong, but
so
then I had to wait 30 days
to
take again. And I literally just did the same formats and strategy I did before, except for I just picked the topic and I forget it was like, do you think it's okay, like the people who are down at the border who like farmers own property there who basically like form gangs to round up like illegal immigrants that come through? Like, are you for or against that? And I was like, I'm against that. Like, oh, those people should go to prison. Like, take their guns away. Like, I was like, how would the teachers write this? And I literally got a passing score, and I was done in like, I just turned my essay in like 45 minutes and did like minimal editing. So
that's so smart.
I could be off basis, but I'm just saying, like, when you start feeling your teacher out, you'll know what they're passionate about, what they like. Just write something that they're going to like.
Dude, that they
would feel
smart.
the same way about. And that's proven. Anytime you're in a group with someone and you're hanging out with someone, you get in a conversation. Like, if you're agreeant with that person, you share the same views. How's your conversation? Very pleasant. You get along. It's easy. When you have opposite views, people are very clashing.
Yeah, it's the saying,
I'm not saying like
interesting.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't have your opinions. That's not the point of this. To pass a grade or a test or to like move on, sometimes you just play that game.
That's really smart. I never thought of that. I had a teacher that I could tell was like a stoner, and I used to be a big pothead back in the day. And I like gave my presentation, and we all gave them like individually, like just in office hours. And then she was like she knew what it was about, and like wore like her hemp, and like I did a terrible job, and I still got a really good grade.
There you go.
So yeah, that's I didn't actively like have that thought. I wish I was that savvy when I was younger because I probably could have. I'm always like, I love taking like the devil's advocate. I like being contrarian, but it doesn't benefit me. I'll tell you that. It's a lot harder to get through the world contrarian. It is interesting though.
Like, sorry, another quick example. One time in like 5th grade or something, we had a book report assignment we had to do. And one, I didn't read the book. 2, I forgot to bring in like a shoebox with like, we're supposed to put 5 items in there that like represented things in the story and then hold them up and talk about it and like summarize the book. I didn't do any of that shit. I took the book when I went up there. It has a summary on the back of the book. I read that out loud. That was the summary of the book. And I borrowed someone else's shoebox and grabbed like 1 or 2 items from everyone at my table shoebox. And I made sure I went last after they all went. So I went up there with the shoebox, holding the book like this. And I'm trying to make it look like I'm not looking. And I'm like in 5th grade. Like, who thinks of this shit? And then I pull the items out of the shoebox, and I think I only had like 3 items, and I pull them out of the shoebox, one like this, and I would say like, oh, this represents whatever from the story, and then I put it down the next thing, and then at the end I just picked up the same item I already picked up like a few items before because I didn't have enough, and I would just say it represents something else. I got like a B+. So either the teacher don't give a shit and ain't paying attention, or I just winged it enough. And all these other kids stayed up late and stressed out and did their things. And I just winged it in like 2 minutes at my desk, like throwing some crap together.
Dude, so that is awesome, number 1. And number 2 is one of the most brutal bosses I ever had, who was also extremely successful and influential on like my trajectory, I guess. She would always say, good and done is better than perfect and not finished. And she would just basically say, get it done, good enough. And like, I live my life by that, dude. Like, no one's freaking grading us anymore. As long as it's good enough to get it done, to get the job done and get to the next thing, that's all you need to do. So you've essentially been doing that since day 1. And honestly, it's probably because you were too smart for academics. Like, academics aren't for like, they're for people that want to be in academia or are good at memorizing. Granted, you have to be intelligent to get good grades in some shape or form, but I don't think it's a measure of actual, I don't think intelligence is the right word. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So what about you, Joe? What would be your final takeaway?
Yeah, I think, man, it'd probably be that it's like good enough. Good and done is better than perfect and not finished. No one is noticing that extra effort except you. Like, the best thing, this is when I basically decided to never put in extra effort. Not that I don't ever, but realize how vapid it was. So I did this, like, this is early in my career. I was in marketing, and I put together this really like awesome presentation. So our CEO was doing like a State of the Union, and I like made like a freaking avatar of the guy. And like I like incorporated in all these like funny positions and like stuff throughout all these transitions and shit in this. Like, this took me like days, right? And the way this dude was just blowing through the slides, like click, 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 click. It could have been like a freaking auto-generated slide with like 3 words on it. Like, no one cared, especially this dude, because he wasn't even looking at it. He was just running through it and kind of like looking at it for a second, talking, looking at it for a second, talking. And I'm like, why did I put so much effort into that? So that's when I was like, okay, good enough is good enough. And that's how I live my life. Like, I'm a A-, B+. I like an A-, but I'm fine with a B+.
No, I think you're totally right. And especially, and we're not saying this, like, we both do really well at our jobs and we're really good at work and like get things done. But I think that's the strategy of like KISS, right? Like, keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you can spend all this time and effort and getting something done, or you can do stuff like 95% of the way good, but like get tons of things done. And that's more valuable, in my opinion, is being able to get those things done quickly and efficiently.
Yeah,
and that's what makes you more valuable.
Is like the antithesis of productivity. So it's that we're not talking about like doing bad work. We're saying once you get to the point where it's like good, and then the next stuff is like perfection, you just got to move on, because that's when you actually waste time.
Mm-hmm. You spend the extra time, but you're not getting any. Your return is diminished. Your return
That's
is like you've maximized the return, so it's useless to keep spending the time to keep improving that extra 1 or 2% when you'll literally get nothing in return.
And I think that is got to be like, it's like once you hit the maximum rate of return, then it's like actually the perfect amount done in theory if you want to be someone who is efficient.
I like that. That's great. All right. Well, this was episode 8, and we will be back next week for another episode. So please leave a comment down below, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.